Hi everyone, Karen here. Today is all about how to make a wreath. And we're going to do this without anything fancy. It's going to be a simple printout that you're going to glue together, make yourself a template, and you'll be able to make any 4-inch size wreath or smaller that you want. So what we're going to need is you're going to need both pages here. Now this one here is our grid lines. And this one can be on copy paper because it's just going to be glued on the back. And we're just going to cut out this big square here. That's going to give you an 8x8 square with this in the middle. Now this one here, you're going to want heavier paper. Now if your printer takes really heavy paper, run it through there. If your printer doesn't take real heavy paper, just make 2 copies of it, glue them together, and then cut it out. That way it'll give you something nice and heavy on the top. Now there is a PDF and an SVG version of this. Now this one here is just a PDF because you just have to cut that out. There's really nothing to cut on it except the basic square. This one, if you do have a Cameo, Cricut, or any of those other machines, you can just go ahead and download the SVG instead of the PDF and use your machine to cut it out if you'd rather. And then just use the heaviest paper you have. So this, you're going to cut out the 8x8 square again, and then cut this center out here. And we don't need this center part, so really just kind of fold it over, put a snip, and just cut it out. Now this is going to get glued on top of this square. So you will end up with something like this, where you're going to see the red lines here. That's where your paper is going to go, and that's a 4-inch paper. And then you're going to see these little pie wedges. Now depending on the size of your stamp, you're going to use 1, 2, or 4 of these wedges at any one time. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So this one here is a small stamp that was put inside the wedge, and you went around to all 16 wedges. This one, the flowers on the outside, there's 16 of those. This was put closer to the center, so the wedge is more narrow here, so there's only 8 there. And that is in the center because you can use that dot there in the center to line up anything in the center. This one had a larger stamp with a smaller stamp stuck in between. This one had a larger stamp on the outside, and the smaller stamp is on the inside, but because the wedge is narrow, you still only have the 8. Now this one, I stamped in color. They don't all have to be in black ink. And then in between, I put dots of glitter glue. Now this one here is a bigger stamp, so there's just 8. And this one here is 3 small stamps, and then these fish in the corner I added at the end to fill the whole entire page. And I'll show you how to do that. So let's start off with the basic 16 circle. So let me move these out of the way. Bring in the stamping platform. This will go in the stamping platform. And I have a sticky mat, so I don't have to use my magnets, but so secure it down there however your mat works. This can hang off the edge because we're going to be stamping over here. Now a couple things to keep in mind. Your paper is going to sit inside this square here. Now, so you don't want anything sticking out of this red line here. And you want to make sure your stamp is within this wedge. So I'm going to start off with this little leaf. And I'm going to put it here, in the middle here. And we're just going to do a basic wreath, just so you can get the idea of what I'm talking about here. So we're going to start there. And the reason why this works is because all you're really doing when you're making a wreath is we're going to keep the stamp in the same place, and we need to rotate our paper. So each of these is rotated at 22.5 degrees all the way around the circle, because you just need it to be evenly, and it is 22.5 degrees, so if you want to make your own, you can. So this is going to go in here, and we're going to ink this up. And we're going to start there. Now we're going to rotate it 1. I'm going to ink up. And we're going to stamp again. Now I'm going to go to the 3rd position. I'm going to ink up. And we're going to stamp again. Now I'm going to switch it to the next position. Make sure we're sitting in there well. That's why I was saying make sure the template part is a nice thick paper. Give yourself a nice place to, a nice well to slide the paper in. Now we're going to go one more time. Now you can see the wreath starting to take shape here. Now using a small stamp like this all the way around the same takes the longest time because you're repeating it 16 times. But I will show you other wreaths that won't take as long. And this will work with any small stamp you have in your stash. It just needs to fit within the guidelines here of the 4 inches. Now if you wanted to make an A2 card and make a smaller wreath, you absolutely could. You would just use smaller stamps and pull them closer to the center to get a smaller wreath. And we'll do that also in a minute. Oops, I didn't move that one. Alright, rotate it again. Alright, the last one. Put that in here. Ink up. Okay, now there you have your basic wreath with one stamp in each wedge. Now another thing you can do, and I'm going to flip this over and do it on this side, is I'm going to take something a little bit bigger, like this flower, and notice this flower takes up 2 wedges, and that's fine. It can take up 2 wedges. But instead of moving it 1 space each time, we're going to move it 2. Let's see, so that's going to fit about there. I'll take the leaf off. All right, now we're going to pick up the flower. And now we'll put the paper on here. And we'll ink. Alright, so we started here. So we're going to skip this one and go to this one. So we're going to skip and go. Going to skip this one. Go to this one. Going to skip this one and come down here. And we're going to skip 2 again. And we're going to skip 2 again. And we will skip 2 again. And here's the last one. There you are. So there's a wreath with 8 and the wreath with 16. Now you can't put a stamp down that takes up 3. It has to be an even number because 3 won't let you rotate around the right number of times. You'll end up with a gap. So you can do 1, 2, or 4. So let me show you what 4 would look like. Let me find a big stamp. I think this dolphin will work. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, the dolphin works. Let's see. Well, can I get him down here far enough? Yep, he will barely fit, but he will fit. So put the flower away. Pick up the dolphin. Put it in a piece of paper. Ink up the dolphin. Let's see if it's going to fit. Yep, he fits. Alright, so now we're going to rotate 4. So the one that was in the corner here goes 1, 2, 3, 4. So however many wedges you're using at a time, that's how many you have to spin it. So we're going to go again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. So basically you're following the red lines for the 4. We're going to put a third one here. And then we're going to rotate it one more time. There you are. You made a little wreath with 4 dolphins, and that will work with any large stamp that you have. That will fit within 4 of the wedges. So now we can start mixing it up a little bit and having a little bit of fun with it. So now I'm going to take a larger stamp and a small one. Let me find... Alright, I guess I'll use this shell, because the shell will go across too, and I can angle it to fit in there however I want. And then I'm going to take this little teeny tiny little starfish. I'm going to put it down here. So you can fill up this wedge with as much as you want. Whatever you want to have on there. As long as you don't cross the black lines, you're going to be fine. So I'm going to pick this up. Piece of paper, add in here, ink this up, and there we go. So now we will move this over 2, 1, 2, because our biggest stamp took up 2 spaces, so even though the little starfish only took up 1, you want to move it 2 because of the big shell. So we'll stamp that. Now we'll move it 2 again. We'll move it 2 again. And 2. And once you've made a couple of these, you'll see it goes pretty quickly. There you go. There's the last one. So now you have a small wreath of starfish and a bigger wreath of shells. So this is where I was saying that if you wanted to make just a little wreath for a smaller card, you absolutely can. Just put, let me put this on here so we can see the wedge. Just put that on there closer to the bottom. And you can just use the 2 wedges, gives you plenty of space to put a stamp down there, and just make a small wreath. Let's see, so that is that. Now let's say you have a wreath and you've started it. And let's pick, let's see, what else do I have? Alright, so let's say you want to start one with a sand dollar. And you're like, oh, okay, I want to make a sand dollar. So we're going to start here. Let me take these off. Those back. So let me pick up the sand dollar. You're like, okay, we have that sand dollar there. Whoops, I have to put the paper in. Alright, so we have the sand dollar. Now I'm going to go ahead and move it 2. 1, 2. And I'm going to stamp the sand dollar again. And you're like, well, I kind of like that, but it kind of looks a little empty. So let me put one more stamp on here. And I will show you what you can do. Get that in there. So there's 3. Now you're like, well, that looks a little plain. So as long as I don't go above this red line, I can add something else. So I'm going to add this little turtle. And I'm going to put him in between. So now I'm going to pick up the little turtle. And I'm going to turn this 2 spaces. I'm going to ink them both up. Now I have my turtle. Now I'm going to switch it too. And I'm going to make another turtle. 1, 2. And we'll do it again. Now 1, 2. So as you see here, once you have a couple of stamps on there, if you want to slide something in between, you absolutely can. What you'll have to do is once you get to the end here, we'll stamp this one more time to finish off the sand dollars. So now the sand dollars are complete, but the turtle isn't. So I'm just going to take the sand dollar off. And now I can just finish up on those last few I didn't do in the beginning with the turtle. So I'm going to turn 2. And stamp the turtle in place. And then I'm going to turn it 2 more. So the point to this is you can add on to this. Once you get your first circle on here, and you get it started, you absolutely can add. Make it look a little bit more interesting. So there we go. So now we have a wreath with sand dollars and little turtles. Now you could take this and find something really small. So I think there's a teeny tiny little starfish here. So I could get this in place. Put that here. Now I'm going to check this when I do the next one. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and there should be plenty of room there, but let me check. Since I did not use the grid, yep, that's going to be fine. So when you're using your stamping platform, if you're not sure in your placement, you can always just hover it over it and make sure you're going to be alright. So I'm going to move it 2 more. And I'm going to stamp this little starfish again. And he's a little bit of a squishy stamp, so I have to be careful not to press down too hard. We're good. 1, 2. Two more. And here's another next one. And there we go. So we added a little one to the inside. Now, with this one here, I had all 3 little stamps on there at the same time because they did all fit in the same wedge. And then I was like, well, that kind of fills up the whole page except for the corners. So, to fill in just the 4 corners, and you could use this any time you want to put something in the corners. So I am going to take, let's see, what do I want? Maybe this little fish. Let's see if the little fish will fit. I hope the little fish will fit. So I'm going to put this little fish up here in the corner. Put the little starfish away. Now I'm going to pick up the little fish. And I'm going to stamp him up here in the corner. Now if I want to put something in the other corners, I'm going to rotate this 4 times, which basically I'm going to move this to this corner. Because we have our red square. I started over here. I'm not going to move it over to here. Put my paper in. Ink my fish. I'm going to turn it to the next corner. Ink the fish. And the last corner. There you go. So now you have a fish in each of the 4 corners. So you can use this to make a whole entire pattern. And once you get started, you know, even if you have something that's a little bit bigger, once you get it started, you can just keep going around and around and around. So for review, let's look at it. So you want to cut out the 2 templates, glue them together. You're going to want to keep your stamps within the wedge. If you're going to rotate around the 16 times, you can use 2 wedges and go around 8 times, or use 4 wedges and go around 4 times. And it will give you different effects. You can use different kinds of stamps. You can add stamps, do different colors to get all kinds of different patterns. So just make sure that nothing goes past the red line and everything stays in the wedge. And that's really all there is to it. So I hope you enjoyed this. And if you did, give me a thumbs up. And I hope you try this and you make lots of cards. And until next time, stay crafty.